Hello, my creative friends. I'm Heather North from heatherscreativeblessings.com. I have the card that I will be sending out to my Stampin' Up! Customers who've ordered from me in the past couple of months. It's a gorgeous, clean and simple card. So to start out, I have the Soft Sky cardstock on the 11-inch side, and I'm going to use that lighter gray scoring blade to just score it at 5.5 inches. Then I'm going to turn my cardstock, and on the 8.5-inch side, I'm going to cut it at 4.25 inches with the darker blade. The great thing about the Stampin' Up! Trimmer is that both blades fit in the track at the same time. So I'm repeating this with my second piece of cardstock, scoring it at 5.5 inches, cutting it at 4.25 inches. And then I'm going to take a third piece of cardstock, same Soft Sky. I'm going to cut it at 4 inches, and then 4 inches again. Then I'm going to turn it and cut it at 5.25 inches and 5.25 inches again. And I'm going to repeat it on that second 4-inch strip so that I end up with 4 pieces of cardstock that are 4 by 5.25 inches. My inspiration for this card came from Catherine Pooler's One Layer Kiss card. I'm adding an extra layer to my card and changing it up just a little bit, but I will link to her original card if you'd like to just do 1 layer. What I do is I line up my card bases. I line up the bottom 3 edges, and then I use my bone folder to get a nice crisp fold. And then I'll set my card bases aside. Here's a little tip for you if you are making multiples of a card, or if you need to take your supplies from room to room or take it with you when you go somewhere to stamp. I got this little organizer from the dollar store, I think. It holds cleaning supplies. But what I do is I put stamps and paper on one side, and I'll put inks and embellishments on the other. And that way I can work on it whenever I have time. I can also take it from my hobby room to my dining room where I like to film my videos because I have more light. I'm going to ink my trees with Wild Wasabi ink. I got it from the Festival of Trees stamp set from Stampin' Up! It's the clear photopolymer stamps. And what I like to do so I don't get bored is I like to stamp in different locations. So I'll stamp one at the top, I'll stamp another one at the bottom, I'll stamp one to the right and one to the left. Making these little changes helps me to not get bored when I make multiple cards. It's kind of silly, but it works for me. I'm going to use some Daffodil Delight ink for the stars on the top of each tree. Because the stamps are clear, you can see right through them and line them up pretty close, but it's okay if it's not perfect. It makes it look handmade, and really in the end you don't really notice. I'm going to ink up my sentiments with the Lost Lagoon ink from Stampin' Up! And use the Christmas Bliss Stampin' Up! Set. It's also a clear photopolymer set, so you can see exactly where you're stamping. I line the stamp up on my grid mat to make sure that the lines are straight, and then just pick it up with my clear block. Again, I'm going to change the position of where I stamp the sentiment. And because you can see right through the stamp, you can position it exactly where you want it, which makes it much easier. I apologize, my neighbor let their dog out, so my dogs are barking. I discovered when I made my second round of cards that this particular sentiment also fits perfectly along the side of the tree because it's kind of angled a little bit. My next step will be embossing with some Versamark and iridescent ice. I'm going to take the Kinda Eclectic stamp set and this big starburst here. I love this starburst, and it adds so much with just this little detail. So I'm going to stamp over the tree, and it's okay if it goes off the edge a little bit like I'm doing here. And then I'm going to sprinkle it with embossing powder. The iridescent ice is a clear glitter basically, so you can see right through when it melts. I centered that starburst again over the center of my tree, and I love this. It makes it kind of look like the tree is glowing. I'm just going to repeat this process for the rest of my panels. This is a very useful tip. I have these Swiffer sweeper claws to clean up all that hair from my dogs and cats. But I discovered that it picks up glitter really well. So I just take one of those sheets and cut it in half to clean up my work surface, because glitter can be really difficult to clean up. I have my heat tool set to number 2, the hottest setting, and I'm just heating it up away from the paper first. That way it reduces some of the warpage. And then I'll take it to my embossed piece, and you can see that embossing glitter just melt away. And you're left with kind of a darker glittery impression. I just love it. I'm going to heat all of these at once since my heat tool is warmed up. It's difficult for the camera to pick up the shimmer, but I hope you can see at least a little bit. Those of you who are my customers will be able to see it in person. I just love that iridescent ice. Alright, so I use more dimensionals than the average person because I want to have an even level of dimension on my cardstock. So what I do is I tested it out with just doing 5 and it wasn't enough, so I ended up adding, I think, 6, 9. I added 9. But you know what? My customers are totally worth it. Boy, I am just full of tips today. So here's another tip for you. Take a piece of scrap paper and just run some double-sided adhesive. I use my snail adhesive. And then when you peel off the backing to the dimensionals, you can just stick it right onto that adhesive. There's some kind of static, it seems like, with these dimensionals, and I find them all over the place. I mean, if you've used these before, where's the weirdest place you have found them? I find them all over. But this tip really does work and kind of help keep them all corralled. I wish I could craft that fast. Once all the backings are removed, I just adhere them to my card bases. I first make sure that my card base is going the correct way. I kind of flip it open, and then I center my panel onto my card base. After I was done filming, I made several more in both white and the soft sky, and then I played around with white on white background. I played around with soft sky and white together and just created a bunch of different, yet both or all equally beautiful cards. Christmas cards don't have to be incredibly difficult or time-consuming to create. These ones are very simple and easy, and as you can see, look beautiful in both colors. This design is so pretty. I'm thinking of changing up the colors and doing maybe a balloon image or a cupcake for a birthday card. I think the possibilities are endless. Thank you to all my Stampin' Up! Customers for supporting my business. I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a very Merry Christmas. I hope you guys find some time today to get a little bit creative. Thank you for joining me. Bye.